Rassie Erasmus, folks, whether you love him or you hate him, the Springboks coach, at least for coaches in my lifetime, is one of the most innovative coaches that I have seen, and also he's controversial because some of the things he implements don't get universally praised. I have jotted down on my whiteboard here a few of Rassie's kind of more left field-ish innovations. We're going to go through them, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on them. This is 100% just this guy's opinion. I like some of them. I don't like all of them. If you're a Rassie fan, you're probably in favor of everything he's implemented. If you are not such a big fan of Rassie, you probably can't stand the sight of the guy. This is such as life, right? Nobody is universally loved. Yeah, we'll go through these. I'll give you my thoughts, and you guys can let me know yours down in the comments. The use of the bench, the 7-1s and the 6-2 splits. I know they also caused some headlines as well. I am a fan of the use of these benches. Why? Because I don't think they are like a guaranteed success. It is a bit of a gamble. You're basically putting your eggs in the, I want to get more power from the forwards on the bench if you go with 6 of them or 7 of them, but you're risking being caught short with the backs. Other teams might be able to exploit you. If you get an early injury to one of your key backs and you don't have a proper replacement, or you've only got a hybrid replacement, you are potentially going to be caught out. It's a gamble. There's no guarantee it's going to win. So I like these. I do think they add an element of strategy in terms of choosing your bench and seeing how the opposition counters your bench selection. It's just another talking point. It builds up the tension in the build-up to the game. So it also, I guess, highlights the importance of versatile players like a Damian Willemse or a Frans Steyn for a South African context to be able to have a bench player who can cover multiple positions, or potentially like those hybrid players like a forward who can cover the backs, potentially like Kwaka Smith, or a back who can cover the forwards like an Andre Esterhuizen. So I like the splits on the bench being varied. I don't think there's one that is necessarily trumping the other every time. It's just a bit of a gamble because no one knows once kickoff starts how things are going to play out. The B squad, this is kind of a double meaning. One of them is the bomb squad. And I think the main use of the bomb squad that we saw from Rassie is the fact that he likes to bring on many forwards at the same time. A lot of times previously you would see coaches just bring on forwards one by one, but bringing on the forwards in a unit at the same time, and often just before a key scrum, I feel like was a big innovation, and I think is a good thing for the game. Like, again, you see 6 or 7 forwards come off the bench all at the same time and just monster an opposition scrum. That's a talking point for you, and it's just such a sight to behold, seeing them all trot onto the field. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that's another good tactical innovation. And then also the B squad can also be the fact that Rassie, in a few times in his time in charge, has just split the squad into kind of an A and B squad, if you want to call it that. They would never call it that themselves, but there was one time when they, during the Rugby Championship, had the team, I think, play the Wallabies in South Africa, and their next game was over in New Zealand, so they sent some of the top players over to New Zealand to get used to the kind of time difference and whatnot, to acclimatise to New Zealand conditions ahead of time, so they wouldn't be jet-lagged when they ended up playing the All Blacks. I think that's the game where they got a draw down in Wellington. So the fact that he sent some of the best players ahead made the previous week's squad look like a bit of a B squad, but from memory, they won that game, and then they drew against the All Blacks in the next game. So sending out a B team, that's been all the rage in terms of the French tour to New Zealand this 2025 season. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. If you guess the results, I guess the results. The coach picks the players. If, again, the B team loses and you lose the points, it blows up in your face. But that is the choice for the coach to make. Rassie the Water Boy. This one came up during the 2021 Lions tour, where Rassie would take the position of the water boy on the field so he could deliver that precious H2O, but also send some key information down to the players. That one I'm not as much of a fan of because I feel like it takes a little bit away from your faith in the players to make the right decisions on the field. Like, you have halftime, you have other signals that you're able to send to the players. I don't think the coach needs to be there on the field coaching the players throughout the game. I feel like there needs to be a little bit of initiative shown of your players on the field to do their own thing. So that one has since been banned by World Rugby, and sometimes I can see why South African fans feel like World Rugby is against them because Rassie innovates and then sometimes the things gets banned. That is one of the ones that got banned. But as I said, compared to the first two, the coach being on the field as the water boy, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one. I'm not like a real anti that one, but the fact that it's banned doesn't cause me to lose any sleep at night. And then there's the video leak also with that Lions tour. You might not call that a tactic, but it was still done, I feel like, to take the pressure off the players. The Boks had lost that first test to Gatland's British and Irish Lions. And he took the pressure off his players, made that situation focus all go on him. And also a bit of extra pressure on the referees. Like, if you noticed, the length of that second Lions test game was horrendously long because the referees, I felt like, because of the content of the video, felt the pressure to explain everything and review everything and whatnot. I haven't gone back and watched that game because I seem to remember it being not the easiest on the eye. It was COVID time, so there was a lot of stuff that wasn't easy on the eye. But yeah, Rassie taking the pressure off his players was certainly a interesting choice. I don't know that I would be a fan of that one. He certainly got punished for that one by World Rugby, and I feel like that's the one that made him both more of a hero and a villain for various parts of the world, depending on where you're from. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the video leak. I feel like that stuff needs to be done behind closed doors, even if the video itself said that, they weren't getting the responses they wanted from the officiating teams. If nothing else, I hope that video has increased the communications between coaches and officials during their kind of post-match process. Because if the video is to be believed, that they weren't getting a lot of kind of feedback from the officials. So fingers crossed that is a lot more fluid nowadays. So it may have had a kind of positive to it, but at the time it certainly felt like a negative, at least from this point of view. The traffic light system, I believe Rassie was doing with the Cheetahs way back when. Like, I remember when he first got appointed as Springboks coach, I was curious to see how he was going to go because I'd heard about him like sitting on the top of the stadium with the Cheetahs to get like that extra view so he could get a better read on how the game was going. But the traffic lights where they would signal down to the players, I think it was like whether they would take a shot at goal or whether go for the touch kick or whatever. I don't have a problem with that one. I mean, coaches radio signals down all the time to the players. Like I said, I do feel like there needs to be a decent amount of trust that you put in the players to make the right call. But the traffic lights, they said, I think it was because the stadium was loud, right? This was 2023 World Cup, but again, there's not much different for me with the radio signal. So telling the guys go for touch, go for poles or whatever, I don't feel like that's a huge one. That feels like a pretty commonplace one, just a different way of doing it. Scrum from a mark. That one was it just the once where Damian Willems called that scrum from the mark at the 2023 World Cup against the French? That was a classic moment. That's like one of the moments of that World Cup for mine. Like, that's just like seeing Damian Willems put those fists together. Yeah, that's genuinely a standout moment. Like, as stuff fades in the memory, that one still sticks. But they banned that one. You can't take scrums from the mark anymore. I don't have a problem with scrum from. I think scrum from a mark is quite smart because you're putting yourself under a bit of pressure to have a scrum in your own 22, and the opposition has just kicked you the ball. So if they don't want scrums from the mark, don't kick that deep. So the fact that World Rugby banned that one because they want to kind of increase this tempo of the game, I don't know. I feel like that one could have been left alone. That one really, I feel like, makes World Rugby look like they target South Africa with that one. Because as I said, if the team doesn't kick them the ball, they can't call can't call the mark from the scrum for the scrum. So yeah, that's that one. Midfield lineouts and the in front of the kicker from the most recent series against the Italians. The midfield lineouts one, I think, is quite innovative, and I don't have a problem with that one. I think watching it back, now that we know it's a possibility, you can certainly see it coming because right before it happens, a big cluster of huge South African forwards get together to set that pod. So if defensive teams are aware that this potentially is coming, they should be setting themselves for ways to defend it, whether it's just nobody engage, or whether it's trying to go back and sack the guy as he hits the ground. Whatever they want to do it, there are ways to defend it. So again, I don't have a problem with it. I feel like they maybe could have saved that one for a bigger game than Test 2 against the Italians. But I don't know. We'll see if that one keeps being employed or whether it's kind of a one-off. It's certainly not the first time South Africa has set mauls without it being from a line-out. Like, they've set midfield mauls before, but not with like a lifted jumper and then, you know, chucking the ball like a line-out. So yeah, the midfield line-outs one I think is pretty cool, and I look forward to seeing how teams defend it if the Boks keep doing it. And the last one, the in front of the kicker at the kickoff to force a scrum from the kickoff. I like that one. That feels like a pretty cheap move, because there's multiple ways you can muck up a kickoff. You can kick it out on the full, you can not kick it 10, you can not drop kick it, but I think all of those other options have other options for the defending team or the receiving team. I think you can ask them to take the kick again, or you can call for it. Like, if they kick it on the full, I think you can take a line out, but in front of the kicker, I think, is the only one that forces a scrum. So the fact that you do it deliberately, it just feels a bit cheap. Like, back in the day, before they changed the laws, there used to be a thing that if you had props go down injured, they would go to uncontested scrums. And teams with weak scrums used to fake injuries to their props, essentially, so that it would go to golden oldies scrums. World Rugby changed that law that if you go to golden oldies, in most cases, you have to sacrifice a player to kind of punish that negative behavior. So that was like one example of teams with weak scrums doing it. This is a kind of cheap tactic. I don't think it's as bad as faking injuries, because player welfare being faked and whatnot is not a good look for the game, but this is a little bit cheekier, a bit cheaper way of forcing a scrum if you have a big, powerful scrum to get more scrums. So I don't have a problem with scrums. Love me a scrum, but I don't feel like deliberately going in front of the kicker to force a scrum is cool. I don't like that one. So I think I like most of them, but yeah, not a universal fan. There's certainly going to be more to come. It makes me wonder what he's got in store for Eden Park, because that's a massive, massive game this year. Boks up against All Blacks, Eden Park. What's Rassie got up his sleeve? Who knows? But you guys let us know your thoughts on Rassie's innovations. Which ones did you think were particularly clever? I don't know if he invented all of these. Like, people are telling me that this midfield lineouts one came from like high school level rugby. I think we've seen other teams at club or maybe international level as well use these bench splits prior to the Boks, but they certainly were the first ones to, I think, regularly implement it and make it part of their strategy. So as I said, I'm not sure how much of these are his ideas to come up with, but he certainly helped implement them and mold them into kind of a regular part of the Boks games. Or the scrum from Mark, I think, was it just a one-off? But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.